Hi everyone. Great turnout today, so thank you for making the time to come and listen to the presentations. Quick introduction from my side. So I'm Lawrence. I'm from the UK. First time visiting Bucharest. So very excited to be here to talk to you about Atlassian's system of work. I'm a solutions engineer from Atlassian, so I spend a lot of my time talking to customers, understanding how their teams work together, understanding different challenges and the complexities with their ways of working together. And something that comes up a lot is people saying, all our teams are working in these different ways, and we want to find a way to work better together to achieve better outcomes. So this is why Atlassian created this system of work philosophy that I'm going to run through now. So as mentioned before, there's a lot of people in the room, I think, who have sat across different teams. So we probably have some people who've been developers before or are now people from IT, people from product, as well as people in leadership positions and across business teams as well. And what we typically see, especially as organizations scale, is these inefficiencies start to appear. So people start working in silos, knowledge gets siloed, and teams have their own ways of working. They work in their own tools and they have their own processes. And obviously as a business, this leads to things like slower time to market and just generally big productivity gains left on the table. What we want to do is we want to bring these teams together under the same roof and supercharge their teamwork. And this is why Atlassian came up with this system of work. And I think that's why it's resonating with so many businesses. Basically, it's how can we bring technology and business teams together to accelerate their progress and maximize the impact of their teams. So what is the system of work? So there's 4 key pillars. First, we need to be able to align everyone's work to common goals. Then we need to be able to plan and track the work effectively. Then we need to get the knowledge outside of people's heads and unleash it across the organization. And then finally, obviously it's a big topic right now, but in terms of AI, we need to, from Atlassian's perspective, this should be now a core pillar of company system of work. So how can we actually integrate AI into people's workflows? And we'll spend a bit more time here at the end of the session going through some practical examples there. But just quickly to give some background, and this is important just in positioning how the system of work comes together, some background around Atlassian's cloud platform. So essentially, we have a number of interconnected apps, and we now refer to them as apps, not products, because for us, the interconnectivity between the different apps and solutions is a key value driver of the cloud. So we have these interconnected apps, and they all sit over what we call our teamwork graph, which I will explain a bit about in a minute. But just in terms of the app, so we've been listening to customers and we're constantly trying to innovate ourselves. And what we've realized is it's been helpful to categorize these apps into collections so that customers can understand which teams can benefit. So we have core apps for all teams. So things like Jira and Confluence for knowledge management, and Loom as well, which is a video recording and management solution. And then we have specialized apps for specialized teams. But the important thing is, regardless of what team you sit in or what team you manage, everyone benefits from the interconnectivity between the apps, and they have these shared platform experiences. So whether that's analytics or automation or goals, which I'll talk about, which is now integrated across all the solutions. It doesn't matter if you're technical or non-technical, you'll have that shared collaborative experience across the cloud. Now, I left out one piece here, which is Rovo, which some of you may be familiar with. It's our latest AI offering. And we recently made the announcement at Team, some of you may be aware of, that it will be included basically as a central pillar in subscriptions. So we think it should be fundamental, as I said, to the system of work. So coming up, Rovo will now be included in cloud subscriptions, I think rolling out throughout the year. And a big part of that I'll talk about later is the agents that come with with Rovo. So the ability to have that virtual teammate who can supercharge your work and take away some of those manual tasks so that you can focus on the more strategic stuff. Just one more slide before I get into the system of work itself. So I mentioned the teamwork graph and why this is important. So this is basically a common data layer that sits across the whole of the cloud platform and environment. What it's doing is it's understanding how your specific teams and team members like to work. So it's understanding, where do they do their work, how do they do their work, who do they work with, and what do they like to work on. It's constantly getting smarter, and then it's tailoring the outputs on the cloud platform. And it's very important for the AI too, because then it can give you richer, more contextual experiences. So for example, it doesn't matter if you're collaborating on a video, or you're working in Jira and you're linking it to a Figma diagram, or you're brainstorming in a whiteboard, or you're just discussing outside of Atlassian in Slack or Teams. The teamwork graph is picking up these ways of working, and then as you'll see, it will start to inform the way we can help teams to work more collaboratively. So let's talk about system of work. So I'm going to try and run through just some practical examples of how you can begin to get your teams on the same page, all the way through to making AI part of the team. So starting with aligning work to goals. So this is a Confluence page. For anyone that doesn't know, it's essentially a knowledge management solution. We at Atlassian recommend using this. We use it internally as our single source of truth. So let's imagine you're on a team. In this case, it's the sales team, and you want to understand what are the goals that you're working on for this next financial year. So from an Atlassian perspective, best practice would be have a Loom video embedded into the page so that your leadership can give that personalized touch and explain what everyone's working on and why. And as you can see, people can then collaborate on the video with their reactions. But then importantly, you need the goals as well. So then we have the actual goals for everyone within the team, and the ability to drill down into these. And this is now integrated across the platform. So you'll be able to see these from a number of different places, but importantly, it allows you to roll all of that great work up and understand actually how does it really matter. So if we dig into the first goal, which is around customer interactions, you can see then we link it to the sub-goals and so on. So here's an example within goals. You can see a description about the goal, potential to put updates in there, look at risks, decisions, and on the right you can see the progress of the goal, who is ultimately responsible for it, and then at the bottom you can see even the teams working towards that goal. So all the information in one place, linked via that Confluence page. Again, we can keep drilling down. Then we can look at the contributing work. So this would be projects, this could be work that's being done in Jira, for example. And again, the important thing is here that it doesn't matter if you're doing your work in Jira or Confluence or another part of the Atlassian stack. These goals will be embedded, so you'll be able to constantly see, if I'm the person doing the work, this is why it matters, or if I'm leadership, this is what matters, and this is how it's actually being achieved. Obviously, yeah, you can see what's on risk and at risk and on track very quickly too. So very quick example there of how you can start to align the work to goals. Then moving a step through, what about planning and tracking the work? So this is a common pain that I hear a lot talking to customers. Teams often say it's very hard to do this because certain teams like to track and collaborate in different ways and in different places. This is a very common challenge. Again, from a Atlassian practice perspective, we always recommend wherever you're doing the work, have it written down at least at a summary level. This becomes important, as I'll mention over and over, about starting to leverage AI, because what's not documented can't be utilized by AI. So we always start with just basics. So what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What is the opportunity? Any key decisions that need to be taken. And then roles and responsibilities. So again, to avoid those misunderstandings and miscommunications, define all that out of the gate for any project, potentially big or small. Have that written down so you don't have people later on confused about who's doing what and why. And again, feeds into the knowledge that that Rovo can leverage later on. And you can go further on this. So for us, we'll often put whiteboards into this as well. So we'll do a pre-mortem. So we'll basically get together and talk about potential pitfalls, similar experience, again, leveraging that knowledge base from our colleagues who have worked on similar projects. So brainstorming, what do we need to look out for, what went well last time, and what didn't go so well. Then it's time to actually start doing the work. So we had our goals, then we can start to plan the work in Jira. And again, you can see summary, assignee, the team the work is connected to, and the status. What's really nice again here with the interconnectivity is it doesn't matter if you're working in, again, Jira, Confluence, any of the Atlassian solutions. This is integrated throughout the platform. So you could be doing something else in another part of the platform, and if someone updates something to say it's blocked, you'll see that on your side too. So you don't have to keep moving around to quickly get that real-time view of what the status is on the tasks that matter. What about, though, rolling that out further? So we're looking at the task level. Obviously, there's a lot of people in management and leadership positions in the room. You also need to be able to access the right data at the right time. So you need analytics and easy-to-use dashboards to be able to understand at a higher level what is going on across your teams. They're doing all that great work and they're aligning it to the goals. So you need to be able to quickly make decisions based on all the data that is now being documented. This is just an example of an engineering dashboard. But we can go high level too. This is a leadership dashboard example, so looking at lines of business specifically. And this can be embedded into that initial Confluence status page that I showed at the start. So you could have your goals and the analytics and all your tasks all in that one view for people to come in and have that single source of truth. So that's an example of then taking the goals through to actually planning and tracking the work. What about actually getting that knowledge out of people's heads? Again, very common pain, this one. So 50% of workers say the only way to get information is to just ask someone or to have a meeting. I think, probably speak for a lot of people here, we've all heard that phrase, this meeting could have been an email, or you join a meeting and someone just shows you 60 slides when you would have rather just had the link and gone through it on your lunch break. So this is, in Atlassian's perspective, an older way, like an outdated way of working. We would suggest actually using the meetings to do work where possible. So that means bringing AI to the table, and I'll show you an example of how we would actually put this into practice. But from our perspective, it's not no meetings, but it's let's make the meetings as productive as possible. Let's have all the information documented so that, again, we don't have that situation where you have a meeting and someone explains something to 10 people, but nothing is written down. So that information is lost and it's not leveraged again by AI, as we'll see later. So Atlassian, this is just a quick example again internally. Atlassian tried something a while ago called page-led meetings, which was basically the organizer would spin up a page with the problem and some background and a proposed solution. And we would turn our cameras off and mute out for the first 5 to 10 minutes. And then we would collaborate live on the document, leaving comments, just processing it at our own pace. And then once everyone had done that, we would then turn our cameras on. You can also see we have the AI in the meeting there as well. So it's capturing all of this, whether it's us speaking or what's on the page. And then we would use the meeting to actually pull out next steps and approvals. So we wanted actionable outcomes, not just someone reading the page to us or just explaining it to us with nothing documented. We found internally this led to a big rise in people feeling more energized after these kind of meetings as opposed to the traditional way, and a lot less frustrated because they didn't feel like the meeting could have just been an email. Yeah, so I'm going to spend a little more time now on AI and some practical use cases here. So from Atlassian's perspective, we're pretty bullish about this, that we believe AI people should be experimenting and really using it strategically at this point. And it needs to be, if you really want to optimize the system of work, a crucial part of that workflow. However, we do understand and appreciate that a lot of teams, they know there's value there, but they find it very hard to actually get that tangible, valuable output from it. So I want to show you some examples of really how it can start to save your team's time and actually supercharge the teamwork. So first example, if we start from the beginning, I think most people in the room probably are using a lot of different systems. I know I often have this pain where I'm looking for something and I can't remember exactly where it is, and I spend ages searching, or I have to ask someone specifically where the document is. That, again, is a very common pain from our research. So actually a huge amount of time is spent with employees just searching for things, which seems to us way too high considering the advances in tech recently. So how can we actually put this into practice? So from a search perspective, this is Rovo. So I'm going to show you what happens when you search with Rovo in Atlassian. It could actually be outside of Atlassian, as I'll talk later. So what it's doing, you can see on the right, we've made a search about the inventory portal. It's looking at our Atlassian applications, but it's also looking at external applications too. So it's looking at Microsoft here. It's pulling information in from Google, from ServiceNow. So it connects to external tools as well, but you can just search for everything in one place. So in this case, we have the Loom video with all the chapters embedded. We have an Outlook email in the results. Then we have the related teammates to this topic, related work, a Teams thread. And what's actually nice here is if you look at the preview, you can see that it pulls through the presentation that people were discussing as well. So again, limiting that context switching and basically making the information extremely accessible to you, whatever you're working on and wherever you are. And in terms of, so this comes back to the teamwork graph. So we just saw some results there. If I compare this to a colleague, so on the left, what we just saw was the head of product. If we look at the head of marketing results, they'll be quite different. This is because the teamwork graph understands what you care about and what you're working on and who you work with. So for Melissa, for example, you can see she has something different. So she has a Confluence page that her teammates been commenting on. Below actually is a Figma diagram, and then she has the email as well. So you will get specific results that matter to you, not just generic results like you do often with basic search. Something else that's nice is if you're putting links elsewhere. So for example, this is a link just being put in Jira from an external document. You can see it will show up straight away in the search results. So if you have hundreds or thousands of links, you can be sure that everything will be pulling through into the same place. Some other use cases as well. So in this case, I'm searching for my teammate, not the piece of work, because I can't remember specifically what they shared. I just remember it was interesting, and I remember it was Google Slides, for example. So you can search by team member and then filter it down to the type of content. And of course, this respects the permissions that were set. So you don't have to worry about things being shared that shouldn't be. It's just going to pull through what I should specifically be seeing in these results. Couple of other interesting use cases here. So also you can see it understands what you're working on. It's integrated with, it can be integrated with your calendar. So if you have an upcoming meeting about this topic, it will suggest helpful documentation. And if you ask it a very specific question, it'll give you smart answers. So you'll get the answer immediately. In this case, very concise and clear with the team. So you have them tagged if you need to ping them. And also with the sources too. So this is really helpful, I find, as a solutions engineer. If I search, I can get the answer, but then I have all the source material, so I can then click and start to dig in if I need more information to share. And on those connectors, so we also have connectors for the data center. So if you have information on Confluence, you can also pull that through. There will be one for Jira very soon. And you'll also be able to create your own connectors. So if you have your own applications, and you store knowledge on there that you want to utilize, you'll be able to create your own connections with Rovo soon. Now let's talk quickly about chat. So I think many of us will probably be familiar with using chat in the sort of regular just Q&A fashion. So and that's one way you can use it, but you can see you can actually use it for actions too. So you can make it post something for you in Slack. At the top, you can see creating a proposal in HubSpot. You can push Jira themes and issue themes into a Google Doc. So you can actually get the chat to take the next step and actually do some of the work for you here. But there's some other really nice use cases I wanted to just show quickly. So this is a massive time saver. The ability to put documents in. So if you're doing a report or you have a lot of information, you can upload, in this case, a PDF and an Excel file. You can ask it to pull the insights out and create the report you want. So in this case, we wanted to summarize the reports and generate a bar chart. And it will comb through the documentation for you and then give you the output very quickly. So again, massive time saver this. And then you can ask it to close that loop and give you the output. So in this case, we're going to ask it to create a Google Doc for us with a title. So within a minute, we've already gone through the reports, we've got something to share, and we've got it in a shareable format. It's important to mention too, so the search and chat is accessible anywhere. So if you install the extension, you don't have to be inside Jira, for example, to make use of this, which is really nice, massive time saver. You can also use chat on Confluence Mobile, and it also has voice recognition now. So you can just chat to it like it's your teammate. So if you're on the go and you don't have time to sit down and type, you can just ask it to do things. So those were some quick use cases around and examples around search and chat. I saved what I think is the best to last, which is the agents. So this is really, now we need to figure out a way to trim down on all that manual work that hopefully we're not doing as much of anymore, but I know people get stuck doing. So how can we actually leverage AI as that fourth step to start doing a lot of this work for our teams so they can focus on what really matters? Yeah, like I said, that's where the agents come in. I'm going to just take you through a practical example of when you could bring an agent into one of your tasks. So let's say we're just using the chat functionality. We're actually talking to an agent now, but I'm going to show you how you would create one in a second. But we're asking it to brainstorm previous marketing campaigns and what made them successful. So it's going to spin up in a predetermined format a card, which is going to summarize all of the previous campaigns that we have in our knowledge base. and summarize them so our team can start to look through and see what worked. Then our team can start to brainstorm their vote, and you can see they'll be able to vote on which ideas and which campaigns they liked, all in the same place. But let's say we want to take that next step. So we want an agent to do something else, something more than that. You can create these with natural language. There's no development work required. So in this case, we're going to ask it to create an assistant to generate marketing qualified leads. So we simply prompt it in this way. It names the agent. And then we can write a quick description so everyone else in your organization can benefit from this shared agent. And then we can start to define what the agent and our teammate can start doing for us. So we can set the actions. So in this case, we're going to say it can create work items, it can send Slack messages, it can create pages. We're going to set some scenarios too, at least one, so that it understands specifically what people can see what the use cases are for the agent. Also, what knowledge it has access to, so it can start to, so it's already training itself essentially in terms of how it's going to compile its output. And conversation starters. So again, you don't have to be familiar with the setup or build these yourself. Someone could build these agents and then everyone can come in and start leveraging them, as you'll see now. It will be sitting in the same place as the chat. People can scroll through the agents, pick the one that can help them, and then they'll have the prompts there as well, and the agent will understand how to help from that point. So in this case, we're going to ask it to create a content calendar as that next step after the brainstorm. And it knows the output, so it's got the driver of for the content calendar. It's created some goals and a project around this campaign, and then we can ask it to input that back into Confluence, so we have everything in that central repository again. And as I mentioned, so you can access the agents straight from the chat, as you can see. So you'll just have an out-of-the-box list of these straight away to get you started on some of the manual tasks that you don't want your teams to be doing anymore. But you could leverage them when you're in the solutions themselves. You just type /AI in the middle of Jira, for example, and you can start to use these agents. As I said, we have a lot of these out of the box, and they don't require any coding to set up anyway. But we have them from a very high level, so meeting insights, customer insights, right down to the dev work, so a code reviewer, and the ability to triage tickets. And our partners also have some great agents already to maximize the value out of their apps as well. So just to start wrapping this up, we found when we released our AI collaboration report, which you can read, it's on our website, we found that 90% of the people we spoke to said that experimentation was already worth it. And I think the next stat was the most powerful. So we found that there was a 4x increase in terms of impact. So that's hitting goals and productivity. And the big difference was, there was two differences. So there was a difference between people who didn't use AI at all, and then people who used AI but to a basic level had sometimes double the impact already. But then it doubles again to people who are using it in this way, where it is strategically implemented in their systems of work and their workflows. So that was just a quick run through from start to finish, from the high level with goals all the way down through AI being part of the team. Obviously, there's many more ways we could look to, we could show you the system of work, and I'll be here for a couple of days, so happy to talk through those. But yeah, just as a starting point, hope that was helpful. And yeah, I don't know how I'm doing for time, but I'll take questions after if I don't have any time now.
Yeah, thanks, Lawrence.
Thanks.